it's an obvious one usually when I speak, and that is, how can this guy possibly have 34 years service when he doesn't look a day over 35? Well, I actually tint my hair because I have a son who's in the police department now, and I try to look older than he does so nobody makes a mistake between the two of us. So that's essentially what happened. I'm really appreciative of being asked to be here today. As you could probably appreciate, I come from the Combined Forces Special Enforcement Unit, which, when I specialize in the gangs, and our mandate is primarily is enforcement. And it doesn't take very long. I've been there for just over 2 years now. It doesn't take very long to realize that as many people as we seem to put into jail for some heinous crimes, there seems to be just as many filling those vacancies right behind them. And it's important and a passion for me that we address the issue of deterrence and prevention. So a lot of this effort is, I do kind of off the side of my desk, unfortunately, but I spend a lot of time with it, and I have a tremendous passion for it. I spend a lot of time, you can ask my wife, I'm often up at night, writing programs and presentations, to educate and to speak to children and to young kids in schools to get that message across. I'd really like to tell you, first of all, a little bit about our enforcement unit. We have about 225 police officers province-wide. About 40 of those are through satellite offices that we've now opened up in Prince George, Kelowna, and Victoria. The remaining officers are all down here in the Lower Mainland, where we have sort of the main state of gang issues. Now, a lot of we've learned that there's no community immune anymore in this province for gangs, and as a result, we've had to open these satellite offices. But our primary and sole focus, what we work on daily and gets reassessed daily, is public safety. Every file that we look at, every investigation that we embark upon is measured against public safety. And I think it's really important for you to know that we do everything in our powers to get ahead of this violence. And sometimes that means our investigators are changing directions up to 3 times in one day. And yesterday was a good example where at 7 in the morning we started off in one direction, and by 3:30 in the afternoon we were in a 100% different direction going the other way on something else that was more critical and posed a greater threat to the general public. So this violence that we get in front of, unfortunately, a lot of it we do through our own intelligence. We manage to get in front of the incidents, but we're in a position, and unfortunately, due to legalities and things like that, we're not able to report on it. So there's a lot of things that happen in our province, in our cities, that we do manage to get in front of. We do manage to stop. We interrupt. We will go to extreme measures to bring an end to these situations, and unfortunately, it doesn't get reported in the general public because we just can't. It's due to legalities. We have a division that, in my unit, it's a uniform division. We have 28 officers that are in uniform, and they're a provincial dispatch. They travel all over the province dealing with various gang issues. And often when they go, they're going to these locations to get ahead of gang violence, that anticipated gang violence. And a lot of those happen to be celebrations, long weekends. It could be a variety of reasons, but they've been one of the most effective portions of our job, and that is that their job is to go out and get in the faces of these gangsters. They're through a program we call Bar Watch. It's an extension of authority that we're granted by owners of licensed establishments, restaurants, places like that. They extend our authority to exercise the same discretion that they have against individuals who they'd like to refuse service to. So in other words, if a gangster goes to a public place, such as a restaurant or somewhere else where a family is also enjoying the premise, we have the ability to go in there and remove them from that premise. Their failure to remove from that premise allows us to arrest them for assault by trespass. What this does, and why it's so effective, is that the gangsters, when they seek retaliation against each other, they absolutely are blinded by their own objective or their own goal. They couldn't care less. The surroundings, the circumstances of the locations. And I think we've seen many, many situations throughout this province where there have been very public displays of very violent retaliations and strikings by rival gangs. Some of these, we've even had gangsters murdered in front of their own children on a number of occasions. And it's those situations that we try desperately to get in front of and try to stop. We've had legislation introduced a couple of years ago that prevents our gangsters from wearing body armor and driving fortified vehicles. I have to say that's been tremendously received by us. We find very few, if any, now fortified vehicles that these gangsters are driving around in, and very seldom do we catch them wearing body armor. We're still seizing body armor, but not as much as we used to. The whole idea behind this is, let's get these gangsters who pose such a significant threat to the general public, let's get them out of these public forums where they're sitting beside innocent families having dinner. Most families would go into a restaurant or a licensed establishment of some sort, be sitting down at a table and have no idea that the person sitting beside them are gang members and highly sought after individuals by rival gangs. When these gangs come in, they don't care who's beside, who's around, who's behind. They have no concerns whatsoever. I parallel it sometimes to a heroin addict, someone who only focuses on getting their next fix. And that's exactly what these gangsters are like when they seek retaliation. They couldn't care less the surroundings of the individuals they're seeking. So they'll often go into these public places with semi-automatic or automatic weapons and open fire. And I've been to all too many, as I was in charge of homicide for several years in Vancouver, I've been to all too many incidents where innocent people have been shot and injured as a result. So with that extension of authority that we've granted through our program of Bar Watch, we're able to remove these people from these places and keep restaurants safe, keep public places safe. And I can cite you a couple of examples. Last year, September the 1st, we had a group of 14 gangsters walking around the P&E. Our guys were called, and within 20 minutes we were on the grounds in the P&E and found 14 gangsters wandering around the P&E together. All of them highly sought after individuals, and some of them are now deceased, as a matter of fact, but all of them highly sought after individuals walking amongst tens of thousands of innocent people. Those are the situations we try desperately to get in front of. We try very, very hard. This program has been extremely successful because of our ability to remove these people from these forums. We went almost 2 years without a murder or a shooting inside a restaurant or a public place, and then unfortunately at 16th and Oak, we had the neighbor shooting where 11 people were shot inside a restaurant. As you can probably appreciate, though, with 28 officers in the provincial dispatch, we can't be everywhere and we can't be there all the time. So we formed several partnerships with LMD District of the RCMP. I see Bob Couture here, who has rallied up members from each of the detachments to champion the same effort. And in partnership with school districts and with the RCMP and the municipal police departments throughout this province, we are all working towards keeping these people out of the public domain and keeping our general public safer. We are also entering into programs and partnerships with the Ministry of Children and Families. It's our belief that if you're a gangster and you have children, you don't deserve those children and they shouldn't be with you. Because those children are subject to retaliation, are subject to being in a place where their parent may be murdered, and it's just not right. So we formed those kind of partnerships. We go around on a regular basis, and I would say in a week we probably issue somewhere between 3 and 5 what we call duty to warrants, where we go to gangsters through intelligence we know are likely targeted this week and likely going to be killed. And we issue them warnings. It's an ethical and moral obligation that we have. I notice in the United States now they've stopped doing it, but we continue to do it as we warn them and tell them to get out of Dodge, your life's in danger. You've probably seen or heard me on a number of occasions issuing public warnings stating just that. If you're an associate, friend, family, or any kind of relationship to a gangster, your life is in peril. And we don't take these situations very seriously. We mean what we say, and that's why we do it. I think for me, again, I'll just, in closing here, I mean, I can spend all day talking about gangs, and right now I'll tell you that in the province of British Columbia we have somewhere around 170 active gangs. We have a changing landscape that's different than anywhere we've seen across Canada and throughout the United States. We often compare with Washington, Oregon, and Southern California. And our situation is unique to the rest of Canada and unique to this West Coast. We're seeing alliances and gangs joining each other to gain strength, to gain opportunity, to gain market shares, and that landscape is regularly changing for us. It's very difficult for us to put an exact number on the number of gangsters that are in this province. As you can probably appreciate, we have 170 gangs as of just a few days ago. How many members are in each of those gangs is really difficult because these guys make most of their money through drug trafficking, through the dollar dope operations that we see in each of our communities today. So a lot of those kids who start off in gangs don't even realize that maybe that they're dealing for a substantial gang when they start out. And it isn't long before they're locked into that gang, and there's very little opportunity for them to get out once they're in. They often incur debts throughout that gang, and then they start working off the debt. The debt gets larger and larger, and very seldom do they get an opportunity to pay that debt off completely. As a result, they end up working for free and they have no way out. So you can see it's quite a dilemma for us, and it's a large problem that obviously can't be handled by just the police, but it takes all of us, it takes a village to bring a solution to this, and that's why I'm here today, and I want to say thank you very much for having me.